Okay, good afternoon. My name is Bill Rivers. I'm the Residential Division Manager for Squeegee Pros. We are going to demonstrate a soft wash on a standard vinyl sided house. First off, we have our standard 4,000 PSI commercial grade pressure washer. This one is equipped with a cat pump. This one is also equipped with a release valve. Purpose for the release valve is to release water so that the pressure in the pump does not continuously build up when you stop holding the trigger. We've selected to use an aftermarket injector in order to draw our solution, which is hydrochloride and soap, in order to get the house clean. So we're going to connect the injector to the machine like so. Our high pressure hose that will go on the end of this. It's a normal on-off switch right here. Turn the machine on. Ripcord. There are two knobs on this side. One is a black knob which shuts the fuel off. If the fuel is off, the machine will not start. Turn the fuel on. Choke it if it's below 60 degrees. Otherwise, you should not need to choke this machine. Standard method would be to use a handle such as this. We're not going to use that today. We're going to use a cut down version. We have our standard pressure washing tips. Pink one being our shooter tip, which allows us to shoot 30 feet in the air without using ladders. We are not going to use high pressure on this house the way the old style of pressure washing would normally have been done. We have a white tip, we have a green tip. Black tip is our low pressure chemical tip, which I call a fan tip because it sprays the water and the chemicals very soft and very large as far as covering. So we're going to take our high pressure hose. We're going to take the high pressure hose to the farthest point of the house to avoid the hose rubbing up against the foundation or anything else that might damage the line. When you finish a job, it is also very important to wrap your hose properly. If you can see the way this hose is kind of staggered, it's so when I walk to lay this hose out, it should not tie up in knots. If there are any knots in the line, you have to remove them before you can get started. So we're going to drop this as we walk until we get to the end of it. Okay, so I brought the handle with me. I've got it attached to the line. I'm going to start out with the pink shooter tip so I can shoot the top eaves and the soffits and then come down with the treatment. Okay, now we're going to mix up our chemicals. This right here is pure hydrochloride. We've already got some in here, so I'm just going to get enough to get started. I'm going to mix the hydrochloride about 50-50 with water. Put a little bit of soap in it, mainly so I can see it not only going onto the house, but I can see it when I rinse it off. Once I don't see any more bubbles, I know that all the chloride's rinsed from the house and I can move on to the next side. We're going to drop our chemical line. As you can see, I've added a weight to this just to help keep it in there. A lot of times the line will float up. So this keeps it in. We're going to turn on the water, get the machine running, and then we're going to get busy. As you can see, this hose has a kink in it. You want to make sure there are absolutely no kinks in the hose anywhere, or else you could burn the cat pump out. Those pumps are very expensive, so always make sure the water is turned on to the machine. There are no kinks in the line before you try to start the machine. Always remember, when you get to a house, the first thing you should do is check the water pressure coming out of the faucets. Not every house has enough pressure to actually run this machine. So as long as you've got a good stream of water, leave it on for a good minute. Make sure it keeps coming out. Sometimes it'll come out very fast at first, then it slows down to a trickle. As long as you've got good pressure, you're good to go. Okay, so we've got the machine hooked up. We've got our chemicals here. Once I start the machine, this hose is going to eject water, which is what I'm going to use to mix up the chemicals. You don't want to use the hydrochloride straight. You can mix it about 50-50 and it'll still do a very good job. This house is very dirty, so we're not going to mix too much water in it. We'll probably do 50 to 65% mixture in order to make this work. So we got the switch on, no choke, machine starts very easily. Okay, so I'm just about ready to get started, and I just noticed I don't have enough line. This is a classic example of how pressure washing lines get damaged when you grab the line and just pull it while it's rubbing up against something. Don't do that. These lines are very expensive, almost $200 a piece. Get beyond it, take the extra cord that you need, and then you're good to go. Okay, so we're gonna get started. What we're gonna do first is we're gonna shoot the eaves and the soffits, and then we're gonna come down, I don't know, just above this window here, maybe about 4 feet above the window, and then we're gonna switch to the black chemical tip. Now in this particular case, the house is very dirty, so we're going to literally spread the chemicals out. We don't keep shooting it until it gets completely clean. We spread the chemicals, let it sit, then we'll go pull our chemical line. We should be able to come back and rinse, and we should be good to go. Okay, I'm now gonna switch to the black chemical tip. As you can see, the chemicals work very quickly. We have a 3 strike and you're out rule when it comes to treating houses, especially when it comes to the trim and the soffits and the eaves. If you have to treat it more than twice, if it does not come out the 3rd time, the chances are the house needs to be repainted, and it's not gonna come any better than it is. I just wanted to point out, if you look over here, when we shoot the house and the hydrochloride ends up coming down, if this deck was freshly finished, the hydrochloride could damage the finish, and it could actually take the finish off. So you want to be very careful if you're doing a new deck or even the new material that they call Trex. If it's very dirty and you use this, the spots where the water comes down, it's going to clean it, and if the rest of it is filthy dirty, you're going to have a problem. The customer is not going to like that, and you're going to end up having to pressure wash the whole deck. This is why it's always good to take a tarp or to have plastic in your truck so that you can cover these areas if necessary. Same thing when it comes to entryways that have finished wood that is like finished but it's stained. Sometimes garage doors are like a beautiful wood finish and they have a varnish over them. The hydrochloride will eat through that varnish. It will ruin the finish on that wood. Do not shoot that with hydrochloride. I just want to point out, when it comes to these tips and the line connected to the handle, if you see water leaking from either here or up here, the chances are the O-ring inside of here or in here probably need to be replaced. Also, when you connect this line or when you connect the tip, make sure that this tip is locked into the handle. If it's not, you pull this trigger and this tip is gonna go flying. You're never gonna find it. This tip is $20 all by itself. Also, do not ever pull the trigger on any gun while there is not a tip in the end of it. You will shoot the O-ring right out of the end of it. If you don't have another one, you will not be able to continue. Normally, I would only like to shoot one side of a house at a time. In this particular case, the house is so bad, I elected to shoot the left side of the house and the back side of the house. So we're going to pull the chemical line out of the chemicals so that we get pure water, and we're going to go back and attempt to rinse it all down and see what it looks like. Hopefully it'll be good enough that we can move around, do the front, and do this side of the house as well. See, very big difference as far as the house is concerned, day and night. You always want to start rinsing high and bring it down low. If you get to a situation where you've got a little residue like this left over, that this tip won't necessarily get it off, you can see it's still kind of there. You're going to want to switch to a white tip, which is like a high pressure, low pressure type of tip that will not damage the vinyl in any way, but it'll help us get rid of that little bit of dirt that's left. So I'm going to switch to the white tip just to get rid of that. And again, this is a low pressure type of tip. And you don't want to get too close with high pressure on any kind of vinyl because you could damage it and leave lines on it. Once you get the initial dirt that you were focused on, go back to the black tip and just rinse it lightly, and it should be good to go. By the time you finish doing each side of the house, especially where you have windows, a lot of times once you walk away from the house, you could still get dirt and stuff that is going to drip out from either the window frame or even from behind the vinyl siding. So by the time you finish the house, walk around it again, look at it closely to make sure you didn't miss anything. That will avoid you having to come back and fix something that you could have taken care of while you were here. As good as this side of the house looks now compared to what it did, sometimes people are going to walk around and they're still going to see things and think that it doesn't look right. This right here is a classic example of a drain that will usually leave a rust mark on the side of the vinyl. As you can see here, it's not leaving a rust mark, but it's still leaving a dirty mark that even a high pressure tip will not remove it from the vinyl. So don't try to hit it extra hard. If it won't come off with a white tip, it's not going to come off, it's in the vinyl. So just leave it, you can't do anything about it. This enough. Make sure you stop and take a couple of minutes to water down the vegetation around the house. Even though there's no damage to it, as you can visibly see, it doesn't mean that later on, if you do not do this, you could kill every plant and every bush that is around a customer's house. Take the fan tip, no chemicals, pure water. Just take a couple of minutes, water down the plants, anything that might be close to where the hydrochloride is coming down on top of it. And usually we have no problems as long as you follow these steps. I've almost got the whole front of the house shot. All the vegetation has been pre-watered. If you look, there were a bunch of plants up here on the front porch that I've moved out of the way. When you're doing a porch like this, or when you're doing railings like this, make sure you have to get up there and you have to get up inside of the cracks and all the different angles there are. Same thing when it comes to these pillars. Make sure you're getting all four sides of them. If you miss any of it, it will stand out like a sore thumb. You will have to turn around and come back, set up all over again, just to do something that's very minimal that you could have taken care of while you were here.